All right, 2 days later, what are we thinking about Pitt's win at Duke on Saturday? Still thinking it's pretty good. Still thinking it's pretty good. Let's talk about what the Panthers did to beat the Blue Devils on Saturday, and maybe more importantly, what they can carry over from that game to keep doing well, keep succeeding, maybe build a little bit of momentum as they head into, they're already in a crucial stretch of the season as they head further into a crucial stretch of the season. Let's get the week started talking a little bit of Pitt basketball here on the Morning Pitt on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Yeah, welcome to the new week. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to the Morning Pitt. It's youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com. You see the website below. It's Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting. You find everything there that you need at Panther-Lair.com, and perhaps most importantly, I don't think most importantly, but it's certainly a big component, is the message boards where you can interact with other Pitt fans. All day, every day, Pitt fans are talking on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. And they're talking about Pitt sports. They're talking about what's going on in the world of Pitt sports, whether it's the basketball team getting a big win over Duke, new commitment. You can see at the top of the screen there, Tyreek Robinson, a wide receiver from Louisiana, committed to Pitt yesterday to join the 2024 recruiting class. We'll talk about that tomorrow, how Robinson fits in and kind of what the roster looks like with him as, a part of it. And then just anything else going on in the world of Pitt sports, transfer portal, recruiting, football team, basketball team, wrestling, everything. It's all right there. Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com for all of your Pitt sports coverage. And then, of course, our YouTube channel right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. It's the place we put all of our Pitt video content, these daily morning Pitt videos right here, like you're watching. Monday through Friday, we do these just to talk about whatever's going on in the world of Pitt sports. We have our weekly live stream that we do every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Me and Jim Hammett get together and talk a little Pitt sports with you. And then we do post-game shows as well. We did one after the Duke game on Saturday. That was a lot of fun. We'll have one after the Georgia Tech game tomorrow night. We'll go live for half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it takes after the game to talk about what we saw in that game. It was certainly very fun and very lively on Saturday after the win at Duke. We'll see what it is after the game at Georgia Tech tomorrow night. Been up and down kind of the post-game shows we've done so far this season in terms of liveliness, just largely based on the outcome of the game. But we'll have it again tomorrow night, and we're looking forward to that. So hopefully you can tune in. If you're worried that you'll forget about it, if you're worried that you'll miss it, if you're worried like, oh, how am I ever going to remember that they're doing a live stream? I completely forgot about that. I have a solution for you. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you do that, you can turn on notifications and you'll get an alert sent to your phone whenever we go live or we post new content or anything. Everything we do right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, you will be aware of it. So also like this video because we really appreciate that as well. All right, so we're 2 days removed. Not exactly 48 hours, depending on when you watch this video, but we're recording it less than 48 hours. We'll release it less than 48 hours after the end of the game, but let's call it 2 days. You had a day, you had 2 nights to sleep on it and a day to think about it yesterday of Pitt's win at Duke. And I don't think with the passing of time, it became any less impressive. And no matter how much Dick Vitale wants to talk about the absence of Mark Mitchell and Jeremy Roach, no matter how much John Shire and Kyle Filipowski want to whine about how Pitt celebrated in the aftermath of the win, I don't think there's anything you can take away from that victory. It stands as a big win. It's Pitt's biggest win of the season. It's the signature win of the season thus far for Pitt. It's one of Jeff Capel's signature wins to go on the road and win at Cameron. Incidentally, the next time Pitt plays at Duke in basketball with Jeff Capel, if they get that on the schedule again next year, I don't know how the rotation will work out. Capel with Pitt is now 3-0 against the spread at Cameron. He hasn't won all of those games. He's lost the previous 2 prior to Saturday night, but he's covered every time. So, little betting tip there. Maybe 3 games is not a trend. Maybe it's too small of a sample size, but Capel has covered every time he has coached at Cameron. So, I actually, when we made our game picks on Panther-Lair.com on Saturday, I didn't pick Pitt to win. I couldn't go that far. No, none of us could. Jim, Houston, Steven, and Matt, we all picked Pitt to lose, but I was alone in picking Pitt to cover. Not necessarily for the good teams win, great teams cover mantra, but mostly just because Capel has covered every time he's coached at Cameron, somehow. And certainly they covered on Saturday by getting a 4-point win when they were underdogs of more than a dozen points. and it's a big win. And no matter the caveats, no matter this or that or who played or who was hurt or officiating, and I mean, we'll talk about officiating in a second. It was a big win for Pitt. And what they did, if you want to say, well, here's how Pitt was able to win. They came out and they made their shots, and they made them early. They made their shots right off the bat. And I mean, I think, they jumped out to the 9-0 lead. But I think if you look right at the beginning, Federico dunk, Blake Hinson 3, Jalen Lowe jumper, Carlton Carrington jumper, and that gets it to 9-0. And I think it was at that point that Shire called a timeout. It was a little over 2 minutes into the game. Pitt was up 9-0, making all 4 of its field goals. They missed the next attempt, a low three-pointer, but then they hit 2 more baskets in a row, a low layup, and a Hinson three-pointer to make it 16-7. Again, making 6 out of their first 7 shots. They were on a run right from the start. And I think that was big for this team. This team who I doubt that anyone would say their confidence was shaken, but after the last 5 games, 4 out of the last 5 games, how they played at Syracuse, how they played against, Duke at home, how they played against Carolina at home, how they played against Syracuse at home. 4 out of the last 5 games, they've struggled mightily against some of the better competition on their schedule. And the Duke game, they looked like it was a non-conference game. It looked like it was an early season non-conference game when Duke played at the Peterson Event Center, and Duke was just dispatching with a low major. And that's how they handled it. And that's what Pitt looked like. And, you can talk about players believing in themselves. You can talk about confidence. You can talk about lifting each other up and all that stuff. But when that kind of thing happens, and it's sandwiched between, a game against Carolina where you had a chance to maybe put them away early and you fell flat. You failed to capitalize on the opportunity. You shot yourself in the foot repeatedly in the game at Syracuse with all the missed free throws, leaving 16 points at the line. And then you have the Syracuse game at home where Syracuse just hit everything. Your defense wasn't good enough, and the offense, struggled. The offense was bad. And again, I doubt that guys would come out and say, well, we were losing our confidence. But I think there was some element of that. I think that has to start getting into your head at a certain point when you are struggling the way Pitt was struggling. But when they came out and made their first 4 from the field, and they made 6 out of their first 7, now not only have they shown themselves, we can play with Duke, which I don't know if their confidence in that was shook by the first game, but they certainly came out and made the statement that, we can play in this game. We're plenty up to the challenge of facing this team. But I think they also reestablish their own confidence, just that the ball will go in the basket. It could be, I have to think, you always talk about the hoop looks giant right now for that team, or boy, the hoop just looks tiny for that team. I think the hoop had to be looking really small for Pitt over the last 5 games, or 4 out of the last 5. But once they started getting a few shots going in at the beginning of that Duke game, I think the hoop started widening. It started getting bigger, and they had to overcome adversity. They had to fight through the officiating. And I'm not, we all know, we all believe that Duke gets calls, particularly when they're playing at home. I remember Jeff Capel's first or second year, and we all kind of snickered about yeah, it's not so much fun coaching at Cameron when you're on the other side, is it, Jeff? And I don't remember if he ever actually said that, but I remember that we all very much had that takeaway of oh yeah, by the way, Jeff, this is what it's like for everybody else. This is how it goes. You don't get calls. As a matter of fact, you not only don't get calls, it goes the other way. And it very much went the other way on Saturday night, up until the final 27 seconds of the game. All right, 39 minutes and 33 seconds. Pitt attempted 8 free throws in the first 39 minutes and 33 seconds of that game on Saturday night. 8 free throws. Duke attempted 23 in that span. Now, either Pitt is the sloppiest fouling team in the country, which is possible, and Duke is the cleanest fouling team in the country, which it's possible, or Pitt got jobbed. And here's the other thing. Duke committed 16 fouls. I think 4 of them were in the final 30 seconds when they were fouling intentionally. which incidentally was when Pitt took half of its free throws. They attempted 16 free throws in the game. 8 of them were in the final 30 seconds when Duke was doing it on purpose, when there was no way for when actually it behooved the officials to call the fouls at that point. But I digress. The thing is, Pitt wasn't playing a no-contact game there. They weren't pulling up for threes and settling for threes and forcing threes all game. They only attempted 20 in the game, which is actually kind of a low number for Pitt. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the official box score, all right, and this is even more an indictment of those free throw numbers and foul numbers. But if you look at the official box score, okay, the scorers will categorize each shot. It's a three-pointer. It's a jump shot. It's a layup. It's a dunk. All right, and they'll add context if it's fast break or second chance, whatever it may be. But I really think the layup and dunk distinctions are interesting because those are the plays where Pitt is trying to take the fight to the opponent. They're trying to get into the lane and go to the hoop on the layups and the dunks. So I went through the box score just to check how many times they were recorded as attempting and or making a layup or a dunk. And there were 19 layups and dunks in that game. Attempts from Pitt. They didn't make all of them, but that counts makes and misses. 19. Now, that right off the bat sounded to me like a big number. Well, I should say right off the bat, my anecdotal impression of the game is that they were driving more. They were trying to get to the rim more. They were trying to go to the hoop and trying to go to the basket and trying to be aggressive and taking that fight to Duke, as opposed to settling for long jump shots and three-pointers and things like that. And so 19 seemed like a lot to me. And really, like I said, they attempted 23s. So, those layups and dunks and 19 attempts, you probably throw in a couple more that didn't actually get counted because they were fouls. You're balancing that attacking the basket and shooting threes, which is what this team needs. They need that balance. But I wondered, is that really a lot? Is 19 a lot? And so I went back and looked at some of the other games in this, the last 4 losses, really, the two Syracuse games, the other Duke game, and the Carolina game. And when Syracuse played at the Peterson Event Center, they had 13 layup and dunk attempts. Remember, 19 in this game at Duke. The first game against Duke, the game at the Peterson Event Center, according to the official score sheet, Pitt had 9 layup and dunk attempts. 9. Now, maybe they were trying to shoot themselves back into the game with threes because they were down so much. But even from the start, they weren't trying to drive. They weren't trying to be aggressive. Hey, maybe that's where Mark Mitchell comes in. And he was this great deterrent to layups and dunks, and that's why Pitt was able to get away with it so much in the this game on Saturday. But they had 9 in that game. When they played North Carolina, 10 layup and dunk attempts. Again, basically half of what they attempted at Duke on Saturday. And then the Syracuse game in the Dome, they actually had 23 layup and dunk attempts because they actually had a good game plan. They were executing it well. The thing where they failed was the free throws. I mean, that was the biggest issue in that Syracuse game at the Dome is they left 16 points at the free throw line, which ultimately ended up being the difference in the game. But they were attempting to attack there. So I think when you look in the context of the last 5 games, or at least the last 4 losses leading into Saturday's game at Duke, Saturday was almost a high water mark for layup and dunk attempts. They were being more aggressive, and this is what makes the fouls and the free throws even more egregious. And I'm not spending all this time talking about the fouls and free throws. I do think that point about the layups and dunks is important and is relevant for this team and how they play going forward. But it does make the foul and free throw numbers more egregious because if they were driving that much and they were dunking that much and they were going to the basket that much, to only shoot 8 free throws until Duke intentionally said, we want you to shoot free throws, I mean, that's not on the up and up, I mean, that's bad. It's bad. But what's good is all those layup and dunk attempts. And I think Ishmael Leggett was being aggressive in that regard. Jalen Lowe had 4 layup attempts. Obviously, Federico was able to get some to go down, get a couple dunks. And that helped boost the numbers. And I think so much of it was fed by Blake Hinson shooting from the outside, but I certainly think that helped his shooting from the outside. I think we all know and we've all come to understand that this team is going to be at their best when they can attack with the guards, Lowe, Leggett, and Bub Carrington, and Hinson can make his shots from outside. In addition to like Lowe making one or two, or Leggett making a couple, or Zach Austin making a couple, or Bub Carrington making a couple. That's their most effective offensive approach. Lobs to the center is not going to be something you're going to be able to do consistently and rely on. Anything else that you think you might be able to put pick and rolls, things like that. I guess basically any kind of offense that involves the center is probably not going to be something you're going to be able to rely on. You're going to have to rely on those guys for second chance opportunities, maybe, drop passes or something like that. If a guy drives and then drops it off to the center, and then you hope that he can finish the play. But the bulk of this team's offense, the consistent source of their offense when they're playing well and when they're scoring well, is going to be drives, and either drives and finishes, drives and fouls, or drives and kicks. That's where this offense, if they succeed, if they flourish, if they get rolling, that's what they're going to be doing. And that's going to be why they get rolling. And that's what they did on Saturday. And I think it's what they're going to need to try to do tomorrow night. It's what they're going to need to try and do on Saturday and every game going forward. You've got guards. You've got 3 guards, I think, who can legitimately drive and get to the basket. Bub Carrington doesn't seem to want to get to the basket, but I believe that he can get to the basket. Ishmael Leggett can absolutely do that, and I think he showed some of that toughness. He's got to be smart with his body and take care of himself and not get hurt again, but he showed some of that toughness against Duke when he was driving and he was going to the basket and he was going in hard, sometimes finishing, a lot of times drawing the foul. That's what you need him to do. And you need Jalen Lowe to do it as well. He's not as ready to play through contact as Leggett is, but he's quick. He can go to his left real fast, and he's gotten pretty good at finishing those plays. And that's what Pitt is going to need him to do. And then you need that guy dropping the shots from outside. And I don't think you can really overstate how good Blake Hinson was on Saturday. And I almost feel like saying how good he was is doing a disservice to exactly what he did. He's getting more and more like that old Bill Graham quote about the Grateful Dead, that they're not the best at what they do. They're the only ones who do what they do. Blake Hinson is not the best at what he does, but he very well may be the only one who does what he does. Some of those shots, I mean, there was a gift from a couple years, from maybe last season, or it must have been last season, where Hinson pulled up from a shot, and as he's going up for the shot, you can see Jeff Capel on the sideline, and Capel's like, "Oh no," and probably everybody in the Peterson Event Center was like, "Oh no," and then the shot went down. Or it might have been a road game and all the Pitt fans watching were like, "Oh no," and then the shot drained. And that was just the perfect Blake Hinson moment. And he had multiple perfect Blake Hinson moments on Saturday where he would take a shot and he would just say, "Oh, that looks terrible," and it went down. And they all went down. Every single one. 7 of 7 from 3, 8 of 10 from the field. Blake Hinson in the previous 5 games was averaging 12.8 points per game, shooting 28% from the field and 24% from 3. You add in what he did on Saturday, and over the last 6 games, his scoring average went up 2 points per game. His field goal percentage went up almost 7 percentage points, and his 3-point shooting percentage went up almost 10 percentage points. He was 11 of 45 from 3 in the previous 5 games, which would be like the 2 Syracuse games, the Carolina game, the Duke game, and the Louisville game. He was 11 of 45. After going 7 of 7, he's now shooting like 35% from 3. You're not going to get 7 of 7 every night. You're not going to get 8 of 10 every night. It's going to be 5 of 11, 5 of 14 more often. It's going to be 4 of 14, 4 of 13, or 4 of 12 more often. But he's going to... But what he reminded us all on Saturday, and what he showed us all on Saturday, is that he can do things that nobody else can, and he can fire up this team in a way that nobody else can. And it was his energy interacting with the students and all that. And it was also just when those shots go down, people get fired up. And his shots were a catalyst. His shots were a catalyst. He made the second basket of the game, a big three. He made another three under the under 15 mark. He had threes in the second half. He had back-to-back threes. Duke went ahead 50-49, and Hinson drained off back-to-back threes to force Duke to take a timeout because Pitt was now up 5. Duke was up 65-64. Actually, Duke was up 65-64 with 7 minutes to play in the game, and Hinson drained a three to put Pitt ahead and put him ahead for good. Actually, that was the basket that put Pitt ahead for good, and that was the one. It was a sidelines out of bounds play. Jalen Lowe throws it across the court, a big skip pass over to, not all the way across the court, but most of the court, to the other side of the paint. Federico, who kicks it quick out to Hinson, and he gets the shot off quickly because the shot clock was running down, and it didn't even look like it was a shot. It didn't look like it had a chance. And it was one of those ones, and he did this several times on Saturday, that the ball doesn't go down through the hoop. It goes through the hoop almost at a 45-degree angle. And that's a special kind of shot. When it goes down. I tell the 4th graders and 5th graders that I help out with that, we don't want those shots. We don't want line drive shots. We want big arcing shots. But here's the reality. Outside of the energy that he can bring, you don't really want your 4th and 5th graders doing anything that Blake Hinson does other than provide an energy and provide a spark for his team. It was vintage Blake Hinson on Saturday, the likes of which we haven't seen in a long time. Not since the non-conference, for sure. And it wasn't even in the waning weeks of the non-conference that we saw it. But that was the kind of thing he did last year to spark the team. And so if Hinson can round into form, and if Jalen Lowe keeps developing, he is now, over the last 6 games, averaging 12.3 points per game, shooting 40% from the field and 44% from three. He's also averaging more than 3 assists per game over the last 6. He's the second leading scorer on the team over the last 6 games. If he continues ascending, and Hinson is starting to round into form, and Ishmael Leggett can stay healthy and keep playing this role of this bruiser, aggressive attack guard, and if Bub Carrington maybe realizes, I don't have to be everything for this team. I got Blake Hinson, I got Jalen Lowe, I got Ishmael Leggett. We can all have a role here, and my role, sometimes I'll be the lead guard, sometimes I'll be the off the ball. Either way, I'm going to make plays, and I don't have to make all of them. Maybe that will open something up, loosen him up a little bit, and get him into a flow. I thought he played better on Saturday than he had in the previous games. He's still, we talk about these last 6 games, he's averaging 12 points per game. He's shooting about 34% from the field, not where you want him to be. You need that percentage to come up. He needs to be more efficient. I think if he can settle into a role a little bit better, drive more, go to the hoop more, then those numbers will come up. He's a good player. He's a really good player. He just needs to sort of find himself right now. Jalen Lowe is finding himself. Blake Hinson never lost himself. He just needed to make shots. Bub Carrington just find himself, how he fits in here, and maybe they can build some momentum. There's an opportunity here. These are winnable games coming up. Can they build momentum? We're certainly going to talk about it a lot tomorrow night after the game right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We have the live Panther-Lair show, the live Panther-Lair post-game show. When the game ends, we will go live right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com to talk about everything we saw Pitt at Georgia Tech. Looking forward to that for sure. And, of course, we'll have plenty of coverage here on the Morning Pitt. We'll have plenty of coverage on Panther-Lair.com. We'll have our live stream on Wednesday night. Lots of stuff we'll be doing. Lots of stuff. So you want to make sure you stay tuned right here. Like this video and subscribe, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and check out the website Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com to never miss any of our Pitt sports coverage. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you stayed warm, played in the snow a little bit, enjoyed the Pitt basketball and all the football over the weekend. And I hope you have a great Monday. Enjoy your day. We will be back with you tomorrow for another Morning Pitt right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.